This is a small group model presentation for my Rockbridge Seminary class, and this presentation is on the small group model called Missional Communities. First, before we dive into this, let me explain missional community to you. Missional communities are currently what we have in the church where I am located at right now and where I'm serving. This is the model that we have. This is the model that I enjoy. This is the model that I believe is the most effective for my context as well. It doesn't work in every context, but I believe it's most effective for my context. So I just want to set that expectation up front. And also, I believe that I'm called to plant a church, and this is the type of model that I want to implement as well. So a missional community is a small gathering of a church that meets regularly to share both the mission of Christ and the daily realities of gospel-centered living. Missional communities are often referred to as MCs. As you can guess from the title, it's very, very intentional. It's not your traditional what you think of when you say small group. It's not like that at all. It's actually being on mission together, so let's dive into that. First, why should I be a part of an MC? First of all, I believe that MCs should be the lifeblood of the church. Most people see that the church is the gathering on Sunday morning, and then they go break up into these small groups. Let's think of it the opposite way, where we have MCs, the missional communities that meet together, that do life together, that live out the gospel in their own setting, and then they gather together on Sundays for the larger gathering. Now, MCs are actually where life happens. It's where people live, grow, and serve on mission together for the gospel. And I believe it is truly where the most life transformation happens. It's the primary place in Scripture where Scripture's one another's are lived out. Love one another, serve one another, encourage one another. So all aspects of these deep, intimate parts of life together actually get lived out in the missional community. What does an MC really look like? In our context right now, and what I prefer, decentralized. Don't want to meet at church, don't want to meet in a building, don't want to get used to anything like that where we have to go some specific place for this specific event. So we want to meet in people's homes. We want to meet other places that are not a church building or an office space. We want to meet other places, maybe in businesses, yeah, sure, but not this place where we go attend an event. Another good place would be maybe in parks, things like that. But the entire point is to be completely decentralized. They're missional. We want to get on mission with Jesus. So we interact with lost people through intentional outings and intentional relationships. It's kind of sounds kind of lame, but we plan our fun because we want to have a purpose behind it. Not only to do life together and grow closer together, but also so we can invite more people into the MCs, so we can bring people in, we can invite them to church, whatever the case may be. Any ways to reach the lost. We also want to serve people. We are of no value to our community unless we serve them. And the best way that we have found as MCs is to serve the community in events that they already have going on, instead of just adding a bunch of other stuff to the calendar. Is not it doesn't, we don't believe it works as well as taking what is already on the calendar and us partnering with people and helping out. Growth in an MC. We strive to learn more about Jesus so that the gospel continues to transform us. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory because this is probably the aspect that most people are used to. But maybe growth in a different kind of way than you're thinking about right off the cuff. So we'll talk more about that in a second. What makes an MC different? I almost titled this, What Makes an MC Different Than a Traditional Small Group? And that's a good way to think of it. But the purpose of an MC is to face outward instead of turning inward. Now, what I was mentioning on the previous page, we don't want to gather together and do a bunch of free self-help therapy, 8 steps for a better, happy, and more spiritual life. That's not what we're after here. If we want that, we'd go, build 18 holes in a country club. But that's not what we're here for. We want to go to other people instead of forcing them to, you should just come to our religious function or our religious event. And we also want to be intentional. Whereas I believe some small groups, I'm not saying all, but some of them have gotten in the pattern of not being intentional, of not really being around lost people, and that's one of the monstrous distinguishing factors of an MC. Now, implementing MCs. First off, I believe that the easiest way to do this is when you plant a church. If the MCs are the lifeblood of the church, I believe that the church has to start with that mindset, and really, in order to get the most benefit out of MCs. If there's already a pre-existing church, then implementing an MC vision, an outward-facing vision, reaching the lost people vision, it's not going to be easy to implement, because more than likely you are going to have to fight against a lot of pre-existing religious thoughts, such as, well, we're here for us. We're here to encourage the body, and we are, but that's not all. So it's not going to be easy to implement an MC's vision where a small group, maybe old school, traditional setting already exists. And I believe the key to this is that there has to be a visionary leader that can clearly communicate the vision and push it forward in people. If this person does not exist, that does not drive it, and if I had to choose, it would be the lead pastor. But if this person does not exist, it is going to be starting out with, one hand tied behind your back, because you have no one to champion this in your people. Potential issues for MCs. If done correctly, and by correctly I mean that we live out life together on mission for Jesus, MCs will bring in lost people. A lot of people freak out when lost people come into the church. And I was recently part of an experience where some parents freaked out in a student ministry because kids that drank were coming in. And, I was like, great, that's the kind of students that we want here. But that's an issue that it's going to make people uncomfortable, because it's going to bring in lost people. It's attractional to lost people. MCs will stretch people out of their comfort zone. They're going to be around a lot of lost people, and honestly, the more you grow in your Christian walk, the more likely it is that you're going to spend less and less time with lost people. Also, MCs should teach people personal evangelism, and maybe not in a way that is the shotgun drive-by blast that's really invasive in people's lives, that does no good, or is the guy standing on a street corner with a sign and yelling and telling every single person that walks by that they're going to die and go to hell. Maybe that's probably not good examples of personal evangelism. So MCs really teach people how to do evangelism in a relational way, though it doesn't have to be relational, true, but it teaches them how to do it in such a way that it's effective. MCs also encourage and build up people in the body. This is really, I would say, the primary function of the traditional small group model, but I really like MCs because it still accomplishes this too. People are still encouraged, people are still built up, believers are still growing together in their relationship with Christ and each other. Final thoughts on MCs. When MCs are the lifeblood of the church, there's really a true potential to have the Great Commandment and the Great Commission lived out. Lost people can be reached. People can grow in their relationship with Jesus. It's all about Jesus, and Jesus was all about people, and we want to be the same way. And at the end of the day, MCs are to be on the mission of Jesus Christ to live out the gospel. That's the point. At the end of the day, when you cut all the fat away, the MCs are basically a way to live out the gospel. And we believe that that's really effective, and so do I. And I've tried not to make this presentation a pushing for the model that we currently have, but that's how bought into it I really am. And if I end up planning a church, then that's the direction that I want to go. And I may not call them MCs, missional communities. I'm a really big fan of the term community group or gospel community group. I really like those terms as opposed to missional community. But when you cut all the fat away, no matter what you call it, small group, missional community, community group, gospel center group, whatever, mini church, home church, I don't think the terminology really matters at the end of the day. The most important thing is to live out the gospel that is spread through our words and have that lived out in our life.